So there's videos going all over social media about the protests in Iran that have been intensifying. They're actually attacking enforcers of the regime, whether it be police or military. And there's actual brawls in the streets. There's some of these protesters have been taking weapons. They've been actually confiscating weapons, and it's becoming more and more intense. Now, Iran occasionally do have intense protests, like they did back in 2022. But what I found interesting is I found an article this morning saying that the Ayatollah is making plans. He's considering plans to flee to Moscow. And this is in the event, according to the article, according to their source, that this is in the event if the enforcers of the regime no longer enforce the regime. So if the military no longer enforces, the commands to, say, shoot protesters or torture people that they detain, because it could possibly create even more chaos. If they're not able to get full control over what's going on the ground, the grassroots, if they're not able to do that, if this spreads across the entire country, and there's some evidence that this is starting to, I'm not in Iran, so I don't know for sure, but this is just like hearsay from social media. If that's the case, then the Ayatollah had made plans to flee to Moscow, much in the same way that Assad fled to Moscow. He will take with him some of his aides. He'll take with him some billions of dollars that really has been looted from the country. He's got his own little corrupt fund that he has set aside. Iran is a very corrupt country. After all, it's one of the reasons why you have the protests that are going on, among other things. So if you look at the situation, if he flees, that would, in essence, be the end of the regime. It would be no credibility of the regime. Hopefully, some government apparatus will continue to be there, and I'll explain in a minute why. Iran has a lot of crises hitting it at the same time. It's got a water crisis. It's got an economic crisis, which it won't be able to get out of overnight. It's got a problem with its oil sector. They have not been able to really attract the expertise and foreign capital that they would need to run that the way that it would need to be run to get the full productivity out of it. Iran, they're basically all their systems, their infrastructure, everything is very inefficient. Again, partly because of the sanctions, but also a lot of it has to do with the corruption within their own system. The other thing I need to point out is that Iran is a multi-ethnic state or rump state of an empire. You've heard of the 1,000 nations of the Persian Empire from that movie 300. Iran's got a lot of different ethnicities that their intelligence service infiltrates and suppresses. They do a lot of surveillance. A lot of the Iranian military, their whole Revolutionary Guard, is there to enforce the stability, the regime stability within Iran. Iran's got, it's only I think 50% or more, maybe a little bit more than that, Persian. You got Azeris, you have Kurds, you have Arabs, you have all these other different ethnic groups within Iran. And some of these people, like in the eastern part of Iran where it borders Pakistan, it's called Balochistan. They don't even want to be a part of Iran. They have militants there from time to time, and they feel like they got more in common with the people in Pakistan because there's that ethnic group, they're mostly in Pakistan. So if the Ayatollah were to flee, let's say there's a collapse in the government, a complete collapse in the government. First of all, that wouldn't solve their economic or infrastructure problems, namely their water problem. You would have probably a civil war because you got, like I said, all these different ethnic groups, and they have different ideas about how they want things to be run. So it would be absolutely chaotic, and things would not improve for the people of Iran. So the solution is that you got to have some kind of apparatus still there. Granted, the intelligence service, they've done a lot of things, like I said, just to keep control of the population, but you actually need some of that to make sure that the country just doesn't completely fly apart. You know, like I said, there's all these other problems. You got economic problems. It's been in a multi-year drought, so they don't have enough water either. I mean, this is ripe for a serious amount of chaos in this country. Even if you were to stabilize everything, let's say you have something of a government that stays there, and you figure something out, or maybe you have elections in the country. I don't know how that would work, but given the political situation within Iran. But let's say even if you were to have that, it would take several years, and you would have to attract, hopefully in their case, foreign capital to get their oil sector running properly, and hopefully that would lift the sanctions, and that would very quickly stabilize things in Iran. But Iran has a lot of serious problems. Now, if they don't overthrow the regime, let's say the Ayatollah doesn't flee, they're going to crack down on the population after all this. So things are not looking good in the short term for Iran. Best case scenario, I hope that, you know, whatever unfolds is better and is the least amount of chaos possible. But there's going to be a lot of chaos. It's not going to be just as simple as overthrowing the regime. There's a lot of other considerations to make. So yeah, the Ayatollah may flee, and maybe that's a great thing. I mean, they would get the boot off their neck, and maybe you would have somebody more competent. They can get rid of all the corruption in their system. But that would be, you know, the end of the beginning of what would have to happen in order to make it a more functional state.